back to the Ready Room. I'm your host, Brittany McLean Campbell. And to no one's surprise, we have another guest this week that I am really excited about. She is a 3-time Olympian. She's a 2-time Olympic medalist. She's also a world champion and an NCAA champion. Oh my goodness, I could go on forever. She happens to be a musician, a multi-time Emmy winner, an author. And if that wasn't impressive enough, she's a media personality, a phenomenal one. And we're going to talk all about it. She is an entrepreneur, and she started a company, Block Cancer, in honor of her dad, where she's raised over $800,000 for cancer research. And last but not least, she was my host on my recruiting trip to the University of Florida. Please welcome Elizabeth Beisel. Hey girl, hey, how are you?
Hi, that was such a nice intro. I feel like so honored, Britt, to be on your show right now. I know like how much you pour into this, so I'm very grateful to just have a little bit of your time.
Oh my gosh, we are so grateful for your time, which by the way, I don't know if you saw it, but a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago, Kylie, right after World, so Kylie Moss is who I call co-host Kylie. So she makes like honorary appearances through the show. And I asked her if she'd ever fangirled over anyone. And she said it was Elizabeth Beisel. I was like, honestly, same. So like, it's about time we get her on this podcast. So Kylie is a huge fan of yours. I'm a huge fan of yours. Canada are all huge fans of yours. So thank you for taking the time today.
Wow, thank you for saying I love Kylie. I love you, obviously. I mean, we go, Britt, way back. Kylie and I don't go as far back, but we've always like kind of swam the 100 backstroke, at least when I was swimming. But still, like, if I weren't cheering for Team USA, I'd be cheering for Team Canada. So I'll leave it at that.
And we are so grateful. We're going to go we could go down memory lane forever. But one quick thing I did want to talk about, because I teased up that you were my wonderful host at the University of Florida. Do you happen to remember that recruiting trip at all? Because I'm going to throw a little pickup right now.
No, oh my God, the jungle theme party. Natalie Hines.
I said, isn't that fun? Like we went to whatever those craft stores are and we just went and got all our fabric. I also remember this started my like dream of owning a golf cart one day or a scooter, because that was the first time I'd ever been exposed to like a town where everyone commuted via a golf cart or a scooter.
Yeah, that was one of the most memorable trips, because we had the top recruits in, I can't even say country, obviously, because you're from Canada, but probably the world. Like you were there, Chase Kalish was there, Natalie Hines. Like it was a star-studded recruiting trip weekend.
Jacob Pebley I saw when I was going through some memory lane. Yeah, it was a big one.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a big one. I was going to say none of us ended up committing, but Natalie did commit. So
Natalie did. We didn't land. We weren't lucky enough to land Brittany McLean. She ended up with the dogs.
But we love the dogs. You have a lot of love for the dogs.
I love the dogs. Like probably too much. Like people probably see me as a Gator and they're like, what's wrong with you? Don't you get this rivalry? But I think, okay, I'm sorry to go down memory lane. We'll do this briefly. Do you remember before 400 IM, it was either at SECs or NCAAs where it was me and then like 5 of you guys from Georgia, like you, Amber McDermott, Emily Cameron was probably in there. It was like all of us in the ready room for 400 IM hugging.
I know. Like, and you had like, I feel like Georgia. It was half Florida, half Georgia. Jess Thielman, I remember, was in there in the 4 IM. I also was trying to reflect back. I was like, thank goodness I didn't have to race Beisel too much. But then I thought about your college lineup. You would have likely had the 500 free in there. So I guess I did race you a couple years at least. But we always had fun.
That's the thing. Like we always have fun. And I think that's just swimming in general. Like you always just have this mutual respect for who you're racing. And it's like, we're all going to be friends at the end of the race, whether 100%. We win or lose. So
100%.
Well, just have fun.
I know, it's the best. One thing I did want to start with, because this show took a while to be nameless. It took a while before we got a name. Then we did title it The Ready Room. And you are one of my favorite storytellers of all time. So you just talked already about a little Ready Room moment, but I need to ask you, do you have like a highlight, one of those Ready Room silly, goofy moments that you're able to share with our audience?
Yes, I do. When you had asked me this briefly before, I was like, I already know my answer to this question. So
amazing.
I was at a World Cup back in, I think, 2014 or 2015. And it was the 400 IM Ready Room, and it was your usuals. It was me, Katinka Hotsu, Mireia Belmonte Garcia, just like the top dogs in the 4 IM. And me and Katinka were always super friendly and absolutely loved being in ready rooms together. And Mireia was like, she didn't have as much English as us. So we were like friendly with Mireia, but not as much. And we went into the ready room. Katinka and I would go together. And we got into the ready room, and Mireia was on the ground doing push-ups. And me and Katinka like looked at each other, and we were like, oh, this is either going to be like really good or really bad. Like, I think we're screwed. And sure enough, we swim the 4 a.m. Mireia blasts us.
No
like beats us
way.
in short course meters by like 5 seconds. And I'll never forget, like, me and Katinka in the warm down pool were like, I don't know what she's doing, but it's working. And like, maybe we need to start doing push-ups in the ready room. But it was just like one of those moments that you had to be there for. And we were like,
gosh.
I've never seen anything like it. Like, have you ever seen anybody
No,
doing
no, no, no.
push-ups?
I can't even like. I'm too worried about like lifting my cell phone because I'm like, oh, my arms are gonna get too tired before this.
Thank you. I'm like, I don't take the stairs. I don't do an extra lap. Like, I'm like as bare minimum as possible. And here Mireia is just cranking out push-ups like it's her day job. And me and Katinka are like, we don't know how to feel about this.
Especially
But I don't
when
think it's
you're at 400
good. And sure
IM.
enough, we were just like, from then on out, every time we were in the ready room, we were like, push-ups.
Yeah.
Push-ups. Like,
That's the best inside joke.
so that was
honestly.
like my immediate, like, that was the one ready room moment that I was like, oh, I will always remember this forever.
What a good inside
And how we
joke
both
too.
lost.
Yeah, you'll be able to
Yeah.
like talk with Katinka for the next like ever. Well, and Mireia, which by the way, we were talking. I don't know if the Canadian audience would be as familiar with Mireia, but Summer McIntosh's coach, Fred Verneau, was very famously the previous coach of Mireia. So we were talking about her just a few weeks ago. So funny how things always like intersect. But I love that, and I also am like such a like for me that would so get in my head immediately before I dove in for a race. I'm like, I don't know what she's up to, but she might have a superpower that I don't have, and like this is like honestly maybe she just did it to get in your head. Like I don't know, maybe throw it out there.
Whatever her reason was, it worked.
It
I'll
worked.
tell you that. But I actually, speaking of Fred and Summer's coach, I saw him in Singapore, and I actually told him that story.
No
I was
way.
like, one of my favorite Mireia moments, and he was like, oh yeah, we would do that. And I'm like, oh, so it was a thing. Like, this was a choice.
The
Okay.
activation. Like I've seen people do
Yeah.
that before practice, but not like a 400 IM. If anything, you should be doing push-ups before like a 50 free to like activate. I don't know. Anyways, that's to each
Yeah,
his own.
so,
She
yeah.
crushed it. She knew what she was doing.
She crushed everybody.
To
So,
each her, she's got
we'll
something
give it to
figured
her.
out. Okay, well, again, I could go down memory lane with you forever. I do want to talk a lot about what you're up to now because not only have I been inspired by you in the pool, but I'm really inspired by your path in this media space. I would kind of try to filter it down to one medium, but you literally do it all. So I want to start at the beginning. You did study communications of some sort at the University of Florida, correct?
Yep, I did telecommunications. So kind of like TV, exactly what you and I are doing.
Amazing. Okay, and
One-
what
one
initially
of the
drove you to it?
avenues. I don't actually know. Here's something funny. Here's a bit of lure for you.
Yeah.
So my mom had printed out, like, USA Swimming used to do these like national team bios, like a roster almost. And I made the national team super young.
Yeah.
And my first ever national team bio was in 2006. I was 13 years old. And it said, one of the questions was future dream job. And I wrote like sports broadcaster. And so I don't even know, like, you're 13, like, you don't know anything.
Wow.
So I think I always had a bit of a sense that I wanted to go into that medium. I was a theater kid. I always did music, and we'll get into that later. So I was comfy on stage and in front of a camera. And then obviously the more that you swim, you know this, the more you're exposed to interviews and just being kind of in that world. And so it felt like a seamless transition for me. And the schedule at Florida worked for me with the communications department. They were super flexible with me and my swimming. So I couldn't tell you like where it started. Like, I don't think there was a moment where I was watching the Olympics on TV and was like, oh, I want to be like Rowdy Gaines. I think it was just like a slow burn, but was always there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love that you kind of had the passion, like you were comfortable with the microphone or around a crowd, like you said, but then you chased your dreams in sport. And this is almost in a weird way, like an intersection of the two of them. And your voice has always been something that, like, you're probably one of the most energetic, bubbly people to be around. And so it's kind of this like perfect storm of all the things that you're really successful at, and you found a way to make it a career of yours, which is really cool. I love that. I did want
Yeah,
to
thanks.
Yeah, it's so cool. I wanted to ask though, because you worked literally with ESPN, NBC, you've worked World Aquatics, you've also co-hosted on Unfiltered Waters before. Do you have a favorite medium when it comes to anything behind the mic, or are you kind of just right now still doing it all?
Ooh. That's a great question. And I think I've landed on I like live
Okay.
because there's something to be said for this is your one shot. You don't have time to like overthink it really. And I do a lot of my best stand-up work and delivery when it's live. I don't know why, but I kind of crave that adrenaline rush that we used to get when we were
Hmm.
racing, right? Like you have one shot to swim in this final. You need to either step up or you're kind of wasting an opportunity. So I love that aspect of it. But then that would be my favorite. But I will say I do love kind of like the free flow form of a podcast and how you can kind of guide it to wherever you want to go. The guest has a lot of control as to like what's covered. So I do enjoy every medium, but I think if I were to pick one, it would be live.
I love that. And I
Live TV.
think that
Yeah.
that is really relatable because that's the best way that I always put it is that somebody asked me, you know, my first Olympics on the air, I'd done a bit of color commentary, but not enough that I should get this gig. But I worked in prime time on as an analyst. So like basically our main Olympic host, we were in studio, and somebody asked me, you know, what drives you? What are you so excited by this? And I said that was the first time I had that adrenaline rush that I felt behind the blocks. And I think there is something really like cohesive about that feeling of wanting to push yourself and knowing that you've like not necessarily have you put the same work in, but you've put work in and you care about it and you want it to be good and you're excited by it. And there's a thrill of that in a way.
Yeah, and you prep for it as well.
Yes.
Like, I know, especially when you're doing an interview, even if it's a podcast, like there's an element of preparation and you want to be prepared like you are for this podcast. And it feels good when you can do that for the guest and show them that, you know, I really care about you. And even if it's a post race interview, like I'll do a deep dive on all 8 athletes that are in that final and at least have a nugget of information on all of them. So, if somebody surprisingly wins out of lane 8, I don't just do the generic like, oh wow, lane 8 win, outside smoke, how cool. It's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I have this nugget on like that was your first ever final or whatever it is. So I totally agree with it being that adrenaline rush that wait, I want to know what is your favorite medium? Because you do it all as well.
No, I don't have nearly the experience you do. I would say like for me, I love this conversation space. I will say the adrenaline rush of like a live TV when you've got 30 seconds to convey your point across to one for us definitely it's like our largest audience. Like there's definitely something really exciting by it and then after you get that like immediate satisfaction whereas we'll do an amazing conversation episode and you don't necessarily immediately feel like okay like you know there is a little bit something different
Yeah.
which by the way we are live everyone so no edit this is Beisel and Britt unfiltered all the things
This is us.
this is just us but I will say and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about process because I've read a lot of or listen I listen to everything you do because I'm amazed at your work but I'm also just a genuine fan like I haven't missed an episode of Unfiltered Waters I listen to conversations in this space a lot and one of the things that really struck me when you mentioned it is that you've said before that you're still kind of a harsh critic to yourself in this space because there's that perfectionist mentality. And it's something I really relate to because I always try to explain it to other people. I'm like, I could prepare 20 facts on somebody or 20 anecdotes or little things, and I get the chance to say one of them, and nobody's ever going to know the other 19. And I'm like, there's something to
Yes.
that drives you crazy.
It's so difficult because especially when you're talking about those 30 seconds or 60 seconds like I'll use post race interviews for an example. I can have Brittany McLean winning the 400 freestyle at World Championships and I can have 3 killer questions.
Hmm.
But if TV needs to go to commercial or we're tight on time, I might only get one of those. And then I'm like, but wait, I did all this work and I had all these curated things and I was going to tee you up and it was going to be I was going to get you to cry. Like I
Yeah.
have all of this like like meditated stuff. Like I'm the mastermind of the interview. Like I'm going to pull this out of her.
It
So I
is.
totally
Yeah.
understand that sentiment of you can be over prepared, which is always great, but rarely do I ever leave an interview or a podcast completely satisfied with everything that
Yeah.
I've covered.
No,
And I
100%.
think maybe that's like what drives us to keep getting better and to keep being more concise and clear with what we're asking. But yeah, I totally understand that. And it's frustrating to not to go on a tangent, but for you and I, right, being swimmers, we lived in a black and white world.
Yeah.
It was Brittany either wins the 400 free and is the fastest or she doesn't. And it's very easy to see like if you're good at something. Whereas the media world and any creative space, it's so subjective. Like
Yeah.
your type of interview style might be for me, but for the person next to me, they might be like, no, I want something more hard news and critical and right. So I have very thin skin and I want and I'm a chronic people pleaser.
Me
So I
too.
want to do right by everybody. I want to please everybody. And oftentimes it's really difficult to be in this space for me personally. And I'm sure you can maybe relate on some level of it being like, oh, I'm never, I'm never going to be perfect for everybody.
Yeah.
And accepting that that's okay is difficult and I'm working on it, but it's tough. It's a tough
Yeah, and
world.
it's all the things that people don't see, right? Like I think these are such great points because people don't realize like you'll try so and I also when it comes to my work in this space, I would say I have thinner skin too, where I care so much about the medium I'm working within right now. I care about the people I'm talking about. I really want this sport to continue to evolve and I'm really passionate about that. And I think that kind of intertwines with the ability to be really reflective and maybe dig a little bit into like, okay, is that really relevant to a greater audience or like why do people care and yada yada yada. And I just wanted to share one more example because I think exactly to your point at the Paris Olympic Games. I was a studio analyst, and I remember being ready to go, mic'd up, everything was done. We had probably our most successful night in swimming in Canadian history. Elia and Josh were both on the podium in the men's 100 fly. Summer had just won her whatever. I think it was the 200 IM. So that was her most like unexpected gold medal of the games. Riding this big high. I had all these things ready. I was so excited. I was going to get my one. We did like an earlier take, but there was this. We stayed around all night to do this final show, and then the producer just comes in my ears like, "Soccer's in OT. Like we're not going to get back to you." And I remember being like you
Oh,
can't help but feel so defeated because you're like, "Oh, this has." You take it almost personally, even though it has nothing to do with you. And I do want to note that when you are ever doing an interview, and I notice you only get one question, I immediately think of that moment, and I'm like, I know Beisel had something amazing teed up, and she just has to say, "Thank you so much."
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's the producer in the ear. They're like, "Hey, sorry, you got to wrap it up. TV needs to go to
yeah,
commercial." And that's the other thing too that I think is cool about TV is what you don't see behind the
yeah,
scenes. Like nobody knows that somebody's in your ear talking to you the whole time and you're having to juggle your own thoughts along with the person that you're interviewing, along with what they're telling you, and then actively listening to what the person you're interviewing is saying because if there's a good nugget there, you want to follow up on it. So it's I think doing this, and I'm speaking for you as well, Britt, I think it's a lot harder than I think most seem for it to be. And I think it's like very admirable for you, Britt, as well, to be such a trailblazer for Canadian sports, but specifically swimming. Because I mean, I would love to get into summer and how you were kind of saying earlier, like no, swimming wasn't really on the radar for Canada,
hmm
at least from what you've told me
yeah,
until now.
yeah,
And for you being one of the faces of Canadian swimming while you and I were competing,
yeah.
um, I'm it's cool to see you be like, listen, I know I didn't necessarily get the time in the sun that I maybe deserved in terms of the media, but you're now using that superpower to empower people like Summer and Canadian swimming. So it's cool for me to see from afar, even though I'm not like tuning into Canadian television.
Right. Well, no, and we appreciate that because I think perspective is everything, and we'll definitely get through it. Because I think when I look back, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't change the past. You can't what if all the thing. We all have a million what ifs of our career of like, oh yeah, I know I retired. I wasn't that happy in my last competition. Great, moved on. Like there, I wanted to leave the sport while I still loved it, and that's what excites me now is like the ability to have an impact in the current space. And I think it took me quite literally like I was interviewing Summer before her it was actually, I guess, right after, but also before one of her record-breaking weeks. And I remember being like, the opportunity to have this conversation is so much more rare than like 99% of anything I did in the pool. And I can have a space here and I can have a moment. And for example, like I worked with Schmitty to try to set up that call with her and Michael, and like to be able to stand there and watch Summer get surprised by, you know, her idol and one of the goats of, like, well, not one of, the greatest swimmer of all time. It's like those moments go so much farther than what I was able to do, you know, 15 years ago up and down a pool. Like this is the fun part, which is great. And I think we could dive into the media world forever. I'm going to ask you a few questions on your prep for Worlds, because you're at World Championships. You are a poolside doing a ton of fun things with World Aquatics. You know, the ability to chat with an athlete right after they've won a world championship gold. And this one's interesting to me because you prepare a lot when it comes to like color commentary maybe, and you do, you know, you have to talk about all 8 lanes. In this space, you're preparing in case all 8 could win, but you're likely sometimes going in thinking, okay, there's a 2 to 3 that maybe I'll spend a bit more time. How do you, like, once the prelims are done, you see the heat sheets for the finals, what does Elizabeth Beisel do to prepare for her post-race interviews?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it varies between races. If I have a Summer McIntosh 400 IM, I'm going to be prepared for Summer McIntosh. I might have a queue up for maybe who's coming in 2nd or 3rd seed, but those events are per se easier because there's less studying to do. But especially for an international meet where I am not as well versed in compared to United States swimming, where I know every single athlete in the heat and I could cold turkey it almost. I wouldn't, but I would feel comfortable doing it. With this, I get the start list. I research every swimmer. Is this their first world championships? What number medal is this? Like, how old are they? What are significant points that I can? Here's my thing. I always brag for the athlete because I know swimmers and I know that they will not say what this moment means to them if it's Katie Ledecky winning the 800 freestyle for, what was it, 7 or 8 times in a row?
Insane.
She's not going to answer my question and be like, yeah, that was my 8th time that I've won that. I know she's not. So you know what? I'm going to say it for her. I'm going to say, Katie, that was the 8th time or 7th time that you've won this 800 freestyle at a world championships. What makes this one significant? You know what I mean? Like, I kind of do the hard work for them. And so that's what I always lead with for my first question. And then second question is normally, if they give me a nugget, I'll run with it. But otherwise, I'll have another pinpoint of like, okay, this also is interesting about them. Or honestly, if the race was interesting and they had a crazy last 100 and came from 7th to 1st, I'll reference that and kind of ask them. But, you know, that one's it's hard because how many ways can you, especially at world championships, when something significant is happening, you are becoming a world champion. A lot of the times it's like, I know what I want for an answer. I want them to tell me how freaking amazing this moment is. Why is this moment worth so much weight? What went into this moment? But how many ways can you skin a cat and ask, what does this moment mean to you? So I'm like playing word puzzles, trying to word it and cater it to that athlete that won. So anyways, long-winded answer to your question. It's hours of writing in a pencil. I'm maybe like a bit more antiquated than most. I love pencil to paper. I think that helps me memorize things too, because there is a little bit of memorization with it where like I don't have my sheet of paper when I'm doing a post-race interview. Like, I have to know and be locked in. So I write it down. I'll kind of always be looking at it up until the finish of the race. And I'm going to be like, okay, Brittany McLean won. These are my 2 points on her. Review quick. Go get her out of the pool. So that's kind of my process.
You're giving me so many more accomplishments than I ever achieved with all of your little stories, which is amazing. I've now won Worlds. I've won the Olympics. I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Girl, you did in my heart. You did in my heart.
I love it. With that, I feel like it's a good time. We're going to quickly throw to a clip of you with one of your interviews with Summer post-race at World Aquatics. Take a look.
Summer McIntosh,
a second world title in 2 nights. Last night you had the 400 freestyle, tonight the 200 IM, both of which were your first time winning at a world championships. So I'd love to hear from you what moments like this mean to you when you're solidifying yourself as one of the best swimmers that this planet has ever seen.
I mean, going into tonight, my goal was to get my head on the wall first, so to get that done is good. I mean, I'm not super happy with the time, but honestly, at a World Championships, my goal is just to see how fast I can go against my competitors and not really focus too much on anything else. But, I mean, still happy with the gold and just try to continue my streak for the next coming events.
Bravo. Okay, we have more to come there, but I just wanted to say you probably watched that and you're probably picking apart like all the different things you could have done. What I loved about that example was that you shared like context first, right? Like, you're okay, this is your second gold. Like, that to me is like such a brilliant skill set that you like nobody has a prompter in front of you that you're able to know like, okay, stats here. Like, this is all ingrained that you've put the preparation in for. And then you get an athlete response like that, and that was going to be a follow-up question. This is a clear Summer with not much energy to her, not visibly happy with the result.
Right.
How do you react when an athlete's given you next to nothing?
Oh, I get it. Because I've done it. We've all done it. Like, listen, there is no worse time to receive an interview than 2 minutes after your race, not even. So, like, stuff like that, I never take personally. I kind of am just like, all right, I'm going to meet them where they're at. If it's a little bit lower energy or somebody doesn't really give me a lot to work with, honestly, I don't change really myself. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to talk about this next and I'm going to see what you give me. But I always try to like maintain my level. I will meet them where they're at, but while remaining myself, if that makes sense. But you know what I will say, I love Summer and just how real she is and raw. Like, I know there were some comments online, and listen, everybody's going to have an opinion on everything, but I think the fact we also need to remember Summer is still a kid. Like, she is still a teenager. So, like, she's growing just like we all are still, even me at 33 years old. And I think her rawness and realness after each of her races, good or bad, is refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows that she cares so much about what she's doing. And because she cares so much, that is helping A, Canadian swimming, clearly, but B, swimming in general. People want to watch swimming because of Summer McIntosh. She's that freaking good. So I think that's just like a little nugget that I appreciated from Singapore. Was she had great races and she had races that she was verbally unhappy about. And I think that's a mirror to every single one of our careers. We've all had meets like that.
I totally agree. And I think that really is kind of just like you said, this is what sport needs, the rivalries, the excitement. Like that women's 800 free, I know around the world we were teeing up that story and it did not disappoint. At 700 meters, 3 women were still within world record pace and we're all fighting for a gold medal. Like the 3
You just gave me
fastest to ever
chills.
do it. Like it was unbelievable. And so many people at the end were just like, oh, well, Summer didn't do it. I'm like, yeah, but like, I'm gonna swear, I can't swear on this platform, but the GOAT, Katie Ledecky, just proved that she, like, the amount of admiration in the moment I had for Katie and then also for Lanny and then also understanding what Summer had been through and knowing how disappointment, and she's allowed to be disappointed. And there's just like a million layers to it. But was that a moment in sport that like we as a swimming community can be excited by, knowing that like we created the 3 athletes, created this anticipatory feeling, but then it just continued to ride the wave. There was post, like all the things coming out of it, all the things leading into it. Like, this is what makes our sport so special. And it brought audiences that didn't know about it before. And yeah, a million layers. But with that, let's talk a bit about Summer, because I think you're no better person to chat about Summer McIntosh. You're very familiar with the 400 IM. And my first question to you is truly, a 4:23:65, was that ever on your radar for a female?
No. I was like, if I ever break 4:30, the world will end. I am the best athlete in the world. Like, and here's the thing about Summer. First of all, she makes it look so easy because the way she swims is so elegant and so beautiful. But the way she splits it, you kind of look at it and you're like, I could do that. Like, the splits make sense. And then you add them up and you're like, oh, there's absolutely no way I could do that. There's absolutely no way I could take a 400 IM out in under a minute, then split a solid 106, 107, 100 back, then breaststroke. She normally is around, I think, like 118 and then home in a minute, under a minute. Like you look at it on paper and you're like, oh yeah, like those, I can do those splits. No, you cannot.
I know.
No, you cannot.
I remember listening to you and Katie actually pre-Worlds break that down, and you're like, yeah, we just look at our splits and it's like definitely something we could do. And then we try to add it up and we're like, wait a minute, that's about 10 seconds different than the one that we thought we were doing. So yeah.
She's unreal. Like I have the utmost respect for her. And I'm obviously a fan of, first of all, I share a birthday with her, which I don't even think she knows,
So
but
fun.
I saw on Instagram, she was like posting all these reposts of her happy birthday. And I was doing the same. And I was like, how lucky am I to share a birthday with Summer McIntosh? I got you, girl. But no, she is one of those people that is just, you watch swim, makes it look so easy, like I said, but is a once in a generational athlete. And she has the hardest lineup out of anybody. Like I would argue, yeah, I truly think she does. And it's so versatile. Like, I don't know how somebody can pop an 80, what was she, 807 in the 8 free?
Yeah, her best is 805.
807. Yeah, and a 206, 207, whatever she was in the 2 a.m. Like that's versatility. That's another type of athlete that we won't see for generations. So how lucky are we? How lucky are you as Canadians to claim her as your own? But how lucky are we as swimmers and swim fans in the space to have somebody like her up and coming carry us through these next few Olympics? Like it's so exciting.
Well, and you put it so well. And it's so cool to hear it from your perspective, because so often, you know, we're in our little Canadian bubble and obviously very excited about this one. But globally, she is now an athlete that people know the name, they know what she's achieving. And I love your point on her lineup, because I think often she swam 4 events in Paris, and then she was very vocal that she wanted to have 5 in the lineup before LA. And this summer, taking on the 800 free, although it didn't go the way she wanted it to me showed so much growth in the very young 18-year-old Summer McIntosh, because that was the biggest challenge up for grabs. Like, you're talking about a woman who hasn't lost this race in 15 years, and you're going to try to give her a run, and there's going to be conversation around it. There's pressure, all the buzz in the world. And yet that is what's going to make you better. That is what's going to set you apart from the rest, is if you continue to face the challenges head first, instead of just taking, okay, well, I could stick to 4 until I feel really good about my 5th, or, oh, maybe I'll toss in the 200 backstroke because nobody really thinks of me as a backstroker. And if I come 2nd or 3rd, that's, really great. And how crazy it is that she could do multiple other 5th events.
1,000%. If she wanted to do the Turner backstroke, she could pop in.
Yeah.
Say hello to Kaylee and Reagan.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up? But I think Summer, and again, I don't know her that well personally. I've obviously interacted with her every now and again, but she strikes me as somebody that is not afraid of a challenge and almost like fiends off of that. And I think that is an attribute that not all of us have. And coupled with, she's not afraid to fail. Does she like to fail? Do any of us like to fail? No. But to your point, she's adding that 800 free, going up against the Goliath of Katie Ledecky, and not afraid to do it, and not afraid to be vocal about it. So I think that is just a testament to her and her belief in herself and her abilities. And I think she is a force to be reckoned with, and not just the 5 events she swam in Singapore, but if she can handle more in her lineup, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with in other events as well if she decides to do that. So I think she's somebody that I enjoy watching from the deck. I'm very glad I don't have to step up against the block on the blocks against her. Yes.
Me too, my friend.
Yes.
I think it's really fun though, because you not only do you have the event in common, as you know the 400 AM better than most, but you also have a lot in common with Summer from the age perspective, because you qualified for your first World Championship team as only a 14-year-old, I believe, and then you're on your first Olympics at 15. That was kind of a similar path for Summer, although the Olympics came first because of the COVID delay. How did you kind of handle the pressure of being on that stage when you were so young?
Yeah, It definitely took a toll on me. My first Worlds wasn't great. Again, 14 years old, so going straight to World Championships. I was only swimming the Turner backstroke, and I think I semifinaled. I think I got like 11th or something. So again, great experience. But then went to the Olympics at 15, placed fourth in the 400 IM, fifth in the Turner backstroke, and I think that was actually a huge confidence booster for me because I went into finals after semis seated first in both events. And me looking at that as a 15-year-old, I'm like, oh, okay, like I actually deserve to be here. I'm supposed to be here. And a lot of it at that age is fighting the imposter syndrome because I don't want to speak for Summer, but I'm sure in Tokyo, her first Olympics, she's racing against people that she's looked up to and idolized. And that's like a weird switch to flip when you're that young to be like, oh, like I'm now the person that I looked up to. Um, I don't necessarily have like a great answer for you in terms of how I handled it. I think the experience was the best teacher for me. I got better as I got older and had more exposure. It's like exposure therapy, honestly, just like doing it more often helps. So I think I gained confidence. And then just getting older and having my feet more settled on the ground in the national team in a social sense, I think really helped. I think it's very difficult to come onto a team as a 13, 14, 15-year-old and kind of have to relate to people that are in their 20s in college. And I don't know, you feel like you're a burden or nobody wants to talk to you. They're all self-inflicted wounds. But I think just growing through it really helped me. And I think that's also why I was able to kind of help the younger ones once they came onto the team because I understood their perspective and their feelings of unsettledness and nervousness. And it was a first world problem, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't a problem. You know what I mean? And I think now at least our national team for the Team USA is more equipped to handle kids that age. Now that we've kind of like Katie Hoff was Michael, Katie Hoff, me, Missy, like we ran through a cycle of always having a 14 or 15-year-old on the Olympic team for 4 quads in a row. And after that, I think we like finally got it. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you.
No, I think it's great
Experience.
insight. It really is. It's
Yeah.
experience. It's like, I think you also just at the beginning, I've heard you say, that the joy of qualifying for your first Olympic team never really will ever, fade on you. And that was like, we all remember those moments of how excited we were when we first made it, or like the honor of getting to represent our country. With that, I would love to ask your opinion. I know it's a little bit harder to talk about, but there is a ton of pressure as an American athlete going, especially in the sport of swimming. And I've watched for years. The depth in the U.S. is unheard of. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. I do believe that NCAA championships is one of the deepest fields in the world when it comes to competition. Then you go to the Olympic trials, and to even get on the American Olympic team likely means you have a realistic medal shot. And, in Canada,
Sure.
we have that in maybe one or two events. But from the top to the bottom, if you're making that roster for Team USA, you're expected to perform. And there's a way different weight on the athletes. And at World Championships, you were poolside, but there was some stirring from some leaders in the team, some goats of the sport, some that very well. I know you admire, and Ryan's a brother to you. Michael has been a huge guider for you, but I also know that you have such an admiration for the athletes that are currently facing some challenges. So I just wanted to throw it to you of how that situation was on the pool deck. How did you feel the energy, and overall where you're standing with all the kind of commotion that was caused at Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, it was tumultuous. I think that's like the only way that I could really put it. I think it hurt the athletes, and I don't want to speak for them, but the few that I interacted with, I think, you have to look at it from the lens of these athletes grew up watching people like Michael and Ryan. And so people like them, goats of swimming, those are their very real life idols that they saw on TV and were like, oh, I want to be like them one day. Like, I want to do that. So I think it hurt them because it felt a little personal. But here's what I'll caveat that with. I fully believe that Michael and Ryan are speaking about the organization,
Yes.
not the athletes.
Yeah.
Was it poorly timed? Yes. But I think that there is a broader conversation here just about USA Swimming and its leadership, and of course not having a CEO for a year. Supposedly that should be coming soon, I hope. But I fully believe, and maybe this is naive of me, I always think best case scenario, I think everybody has the best intentions. And right now, we as Americans need to come together and create the best environment for our athletes because we have a home Olympics. We're going to blink and we're going to be in LA, whether we're ready or not. So I do think there's absolutely validity behind the things that like Michael and Ryan are posting. It could have been done in a better way,
100%.
for sure. But I think the sentiments are there. They have been heard. And I do believe that changes will be made. And that's what's important to me, is that regardless of what side of the aisle you're standing on in terms of the organization or Michael and Ryan or the athletes, or everybody's going to have their own opinion.
Yeah.
We need to put the egos aside and we need to come together. Yeah. And we need to work together. We need to hear both sides of the aisle, because that's the only way that this is going to work in LA. And right now, I think finally, kind of like the stuff that's been sitting underneath the surface has been stirred. It's been brought to the surface. Now we can address it with enough time before LA, and we'll be good. Yeah. But we need to address it. We need to do that. Yeah. We need to like get on the right track. And I have full faith in Team USA, just like you were saying, Britt, before. I think we will rise to the occasion of LA. There's been so much chatter around Team USA and their performance or lack thereof, which, I mean, obviously the team was riddled with illness. Yeah. It's never going to be a perfect scenario. Yeah. Somebody's going to be sick. So there's always going to be something. But I think over the last few years, Team USA has been dubbed underperformers. But I think maybe that's a good thing. Like maybe having a little chip on our shoulder. Like we were riding a high so long, thanks to people like Michael and Ryan and Natalie Coughlin and Missy Franklin and the legends of like, we were just it. But you know, like it's almost impossible to maintain that high. So maybe this like little dip is what we needed to now reignite the flame of like, oh no, like we need to get everything together. Let's reset. Let's refocus. So maybe this is the best thing that's happened for Team USA. But I do believe the worst is behind us. And I think we all need to just like come together and work together.
I think that's such a clear reminder too, that every single person, wherever you are on the end of this conversation, really, really admired the work of the athletes. It was never to come across that, you know, there was any disappointment in results. Like you said, the team is going through massive amounts of illness, a lot going on. But I think you have a really good point too, in just like the opportunity now to rise up. I think there is this understanding, just like if you had a conflict in family or in a relationship, you know, if you just let it pester, it's going to blow up, right? And now we've kind of seen this like blow up in a sense, but it's on the table. And everyone can now have the conversation. What are the tangible things that need to change? And Michael combated his statement with a very clear outline of what he expects, or I guess gave thoughts on ideas and what could be done. I thought that was really admirable, because it was very easy to, you know, walk away and say, there's a lot of drama now, I'm out. But he said, no, these are the statements I want to make. These are the suggestions I have to move forward. Actually listened to Reagan had an interview out that came out today, and I thought what she was sharing was really interesting in the sense of Reagan Smith, by the way, if I didn't clarify that enough. But she was saying that like the depth across the world too has elevated to a different level that it may not have necessarily been. And she, for example, trains with Hubie Koch. She trains with Leon Marchand. Like those are talents that are being bred under, you know, U.S. Training ground that aren't necessarily having the same situations as the Americans. I had my peak of my career in the U.S. too. Like I have nothing to stand on here. I believe that everyone is going to train in the place they feel is best suitable for them. And I love the fact that there are these world-class facilities in North America for people to make the most of. But it definitely does continue the conversation forward of like the sport just continues to get faster. The sport is evolving. The athletes are going to keep coming. Summer is going to be training with that group soon, by the way. So like it just inching and inching their way up. LA is going to tee up to be, I think, one of the best Olympics, and I cannot wait to keep telling stories toward that. So yeah, I think you got some really great points, and I appreciate you answering the question because I know it's not always easy to talk about, but you're such a leader in this space to like you hold yourself accountable of like I'm not just going to be in this swimming space and show up. No, I show up. I speak for the people that might not necessarily have the voice, and I think that is one of your strongest traits. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I think that's like kind of what everybody involved is doing.
Yeah.
Like everybody is just using their voice, and whether you agree with it or not, I think it's going to help our sport. And that's what we all want.
Yeah.
So yeah,
onward to LA.
I appreciate you too. Yeah.
Onward
We're going
to
LA
LA.
and it's going to be great. Okay. We're all going to get along. And
We're all
going
to have
okay.
fun. We're going to get along. Last question, kind of before we move on to some fun outside of swimming things. I wanted to know on Unfiltered Waters, one thing I noticed when you do have international guests, whether it's Missy and Katie or you and Katie, it's always fun for me to watch you all react to the way that other people perceive Team USA. Like, it's like people, you almost don't realize the way that other teams are like, oh yeah, like the Aussies think this way of Team USA. I wonder, do you have any like overarching thoughts of the way you perceive Team Canada?
Ooh, that's a good question. You guys, I feel like, are always super chill. Like,
okay,
I don't know, like, they're like very, like your egos aren't big. You're not like, I think some people think Team USA is pomp and circumstancy, which I would agree with at times. You know, we do our really loud cheers, like we command a presence, of course, but I think I've always loved Team Canada because you guys just are like small, but you're mighty and you have no ego. And you're like if I'm going to go like into a fight with somebody, I'm bringing Team Canada. Like that's kind of the vibes that you guys give. You're like dependable. I don't know. You guys are great.
I love that.
And I don't want to say scrappy because that's not the right word. But I think like you guys might not have the biggest team in terms of numbers at Worlds or the Olympics, but I think the people that are on that team do their job. And I think that is so cool. Like there's like no extra fluff. You're just like, yep, this is us. Let's go. We're going to crush some relays. We're going to crush some individuals, but like without an ego.
I love that. Well,
it's cool. Yeah.
That's such an honor to be thought of that way. And I say that as if you're talking about me. It's not about me. It's about the athletes that are currently competing. No, I love
part of that. I mean, I'm only speaking of my experience, like on the pool deck.
On the pool deck, yeah. No, and I totally love that too because one thing, circle back to where we started, but the University of Florida, there have always been Canadians on that team. Like I feel like Greg Troy loved to bring in some international athletes, and right now, star Josh Leando training and competing. I saw the other day actually it was named that Josh and Eric Brown are both captains, both Canadians, representing.
I saw.
Yeah, that was so happy. I know like a freshman, Julie Brosseau, is also a young up and coming Canadian. So you've been familiar with Canadian talent for a while, and you're also from North-ish. We'll call you North. So you're
North.
an honorary
I'm
Canadian.
North. I'm North.
You're North.
For
I'm
sure.
North. I'm North. I'm North.
I'm North. I'm North.
Yes, you're North. Yes, you're North. Joining us from Rhode Island. Speaking of, we got to talk a little bit about what you're up to because I have so much admiration for what you're taking on right now. You're chasing new passions in life, and you have a new song coming out tomorrow. So I wondered if you can kind of share a little bit of an insight into your music career and kind of what sparked it and where you're at right now.
Yeah, I thank you for teeing that up because it's like a part of me that I'm like slowly starting to share with the world, and it's vulnerable and it's scary. But I have always played violin. I started taking lessons when I was 3. Can you believe that they allow children 3 years old to take violin? Like my poor parents' ears were not blessed for like 5 years. Like I can only imagine how bad it was, but have always been drawn to music and theater since I was, like I said, 3. But swimming kind of accelerated at a fast pace. I got really good at a young age. And I was always juggling swimming, piano lessons, violin lessons, and theater. Those are like my 4 things. And then it's kind of hard to deny you're good at something when you make the national team at 13 years old.
Yeah.
So
No
I
big
think
deal.
that was where I was like, okay. And I'm grateful for this. My coaches and my parents were like, you will always have music with you throughout your entire life. You can be 90 years old, God willing, and still play a violin and the piano. Swimming has an expiration date. Let's pursue this, all while keeping the skills of being on stage and performing and practicing your instrument. So I was still in orchestra all throughout high school, had my violin with me at Florida, would like dabble in the practice rooms sometimes if I had time, but always kept my violin and my piano skills sharp because I knew that one day I would want to go back to it. But it's really interesting because this part of my life I kind of hid from the swimming world. And I don't know if it was just like this deep rooted feeling that I had. I don't know, like playing the violin isn't as cool as like being a drummer or like a guitarist or something or a singer. So I think I suppressed it naturally. I'm still kind of like working through why that happened, but I'm finally at a point where I started playing more music live here in Newport, where I live in Rhode Island, and have had some amazing opportunities to play on really big stages and kind of like got the bug. It's like when you get one tattoo, you like get addicted. It's like
Yep.
you play one live show and you get that adrenaline rush. Like we were talking about earlier with like media and swimming, I've now found a third avenue for that adrenaline rush and it's on stage. And that's what I love. And so I'm actually going to start doing double time here in Newport, Rhode Island and Nashville, Tennessee, because
Amazing.
that's kind of where you have to be if you want to be an instrumentalist, which is what I am. I would love to just like be a keys player, violinist for a band that needed one. So back to the song that I'll release tomorrow, which I don't know when this podcast will be out,
It'll
but
be out
it'll
today,
be
so
August.
you're good.
Oh, okay, yeah. So tomorrow, August 28th, um, I'm releasing an EP, which is an extended play, and I'm going to release the first song off of that EP, and it's called Spring. And all 4 tracks are instrumental, so no vocals, no lyrics. But it was more so made for me to just challenge myself and do something that I've never done before, but B, almost be a proof of concept because I'm in an interesting place in my music career where I'm 33 years old. I've been playing the violin and piano for 30 years. I've got the skills. Do I have the experience? No. So it's interesting because I'm no better or worse than any fiddler or keys player that might be auditioning. But those people that are auditioning have been on tour for the last 10, 15 years. They have the connections. So me making this EP and recording all this music and writing it is kind of something that I can have as a resume to hand to an artist or their manager and be like, hey, I get it. I'm green in terms of like being on tour, but I have this awesome piece of art that I made, that I created, that I played on, and not for nothing, like I'm okay on stage. Like
You're
that's kind of what I do
incredible.
for my life.
Incredible.
So I like, honestly, ideally, I would do music full time. I absolutely love it, but I would never give up my media stuff in the swimming world because I am obsessed with swimming. It is who I am. It's what I live for. And maybe I'm like asking to have my cake and eat it too.
No.
But in a perfect world, I would be able to juggle both. So there's my summary. Hopefully I hit everything.
You did, and it's so wonderful. With that, just in case our audience hasn't heard any of your work, we're going to throw to a quick clip. So it is proof that you have improved since 3 years old.
See, folks, just a little practice will go a long way.
Just 30
But
years
yeah,
of
like
work.
Yeah, that's like how I was trained. Like classical music is how I was trained, and it's my favorite music to play. And you'll if you listen to the EP once it's fully out, you'll definitely get a taste of some classical. But I also put like a little EDM in there. I put a little
Oh,
like fiddling in there. It's the one tomorrow. It reminds that I'm releasing called Spring is like it makes me want to go run in like a field of wildflowers and like frolic in Ireland. Like it's very like Hobbit coded. So it's fun and it's like cool. Like you can making music, you can do whatever you want. But back to the vulnerability thing of like what we do in media, same thing goes for music. You might listen to tomorrow's song and be like, oh, that's a bop. Like I love that. Or you could be like, not for me. But what I hope everybody does is appreciate the art, whether you want to consume it or not. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I
that's
love
kind of the
it.
goal.
And I
Yeah.
just want to say how proud I am of you because that takes so much courage to put something out there when you have
Thanks.
the platform you do, when you have established yourself as one thing, and then you kind of just decide, no, 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 I'm not putting myself in that box. I can do it all still. And that's what life is all about. It's about finding these joys. And I am so thrilled. I can't wait to hear it. So, yes, I will be first in line tomorrow when that drops. With that, we are moving on to our final segment, which is called No Cap. And so,
Okay.
basically, what I do here is pull a question out of this lovely old. The athletes of today were making fun of me. They're like, "Oh, that's a yellow cap." I'm like, "Okay, listen, I've only got what I've got
Okay.
here." So it's
Yeah.
an old school cap from back in our day. Let's just say that. So with that, I'm gonna
Yes.
pull a question out of the cap, and we just ask. It started with the Gen Z. Obviously we don't
I,
know no, but
I hear you.
just
Yep.
looking for an honest answer. Oh, okay. So very correlated. Wondered who is your dream music collab? So someone, an artist you would want to make music with.
Oh, oh man, the list is long. I think if I had it my way, the Lumineers would ask me to be their violinist.
Ugh, that would be pretty
Or
special.
honestly, or Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
a
say.
Swiftie.
So you're
Like
pretty
if
stoked
Taylor
about
was
this
like,
engagement.
yeah, like listen, I was getting my hair done yesterday and I stopped everything. I was stopped my hairdresser. I was like, we need to look at this right now. This is we're living in a world where Taylor Swift is engaged to Travis Kelce and I'm living for it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I would say Lumineers is definitely my type of music.
love it.
That would be awesome.
And did you dance to a Taylor Swift song at your wedding at all, or?
Oh, we closed it out with Love Story. Come
Love it.
on.
I
There's no other way to end the wedding. Did you? What about you?
we did play Love Story. I don't know if it's our last song. I think our last actually it may have been. Oh no, our last song was Unwritten, Natasha Bedingfield. So that's another good like
Al-
sing it from the top of your
Also a bop.
lungs. Yes,
Also a
another
bop.
bop.
Yes.
Because we're on that topic, flipping gears, who would be your dream interview or like podcast guest to be able to have a conversation with? From an athlete, I guess,
Ooh.
perspective.
You would want an athlete?
Yeah.
Swimming or no?
Anything, any
Or not?
athlete.
Oh my God. This is really hard. Hold on, give me a sec to think. Um
Do you
I
I
I
was just
love
gonna
Alona
ask if
Mall.
you love a lot of other sport, like outside of swimming. Are you the type that has like Sunday football on, or are you like don't really need that kind of vibe?
Oh, you know what? That narrows it down for me. I enjoy all sport.
Yeah,
I'm not like a necessarily diehard for one particular sport. Like grew up diehard Boston Red Sox baseball. Like that was my sport watching growing up. But I think if I had a podcast guest, it would be Alona Mar, who's on the USA rugby team.
yeah,
I think she's fantastic. Um, and then I love to surf. That's kind of like been a sport that I've dabbled in since swimming was over and I love being in the water. So getting somebody on like Caroline Marks, she won the gold medal in Paris for Team USA.
yeah.
I think would be like really cool. Or Carissa Moore, who won the first ever gold medal also for Team USA back in Tokyo. So I think somebody like that would be really cool too.
Yeah, you could chat truly with a brick wall, so I'm confident you could have the most epic
You and me
conversation.
both.
I
That's
know.
why this is going to be the longest episode
I
we've
was
ever
just about
done.
to say, I am so sorry, but sadly, not that my producer's in, no, I'm kidding. My producer actually has not been in
Right.
my ear, but we were just talking about how, we got to shut it down at some point, and eventually
I
someone's going to
know.
cut you off. So, Beisel, I could not be more grateful. I think my just lasting thought that I wanted to leave you with, keep making things happen in your life, but also keep having these conversations, because I think I'm so grateful for not only you accomplished so much in the pool, and I tried to lead with that, multi-time Olympic medalist, you have, all the NCAA success you had, you're world champion, but I hope you know that what you're achieving now is even greater, and the way that you're able to impact the sport and the leadership you show and just the way you make people feel is unbelievable. So thank you for spending an hour with us today. I am so grateful for your time, and I'll see you on the dance floor at Allison Schmidt's wedding.
Oh, Brittany, thank you for your words, and thank you for doing what you do. I'm not going to talk a lot because I know, but you're amazing.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Thanks, Beisel. Have a good one.
Bye.